Good morning, Terraria players, and welcome to my review of the 1.2 update of the Anarchist Mod. This mod is getting overhauled in the next update, so a lot of what I say will be changed or already has changed. Want to know what changes? I will be covering each beta of the next update as they come out. This review will be addressed directly to the main developer of this mod, as he does watch my videos. Hello, Goat! Take my feedback, Goat, and love it. Next week, before my next modded playthrough starts, I will be covering the most recent beta and giving my feedback. Now, with the intros out of the way, let's get into the review. To start, let's talk mechanics. This run was played with the optional difficulty enabled, Anarchy Mode. It was also played with the new class, the Dark Artist. Anarchy Mode changed the run dramatically from the last update, adding new items, mechanics, and a temperature system. For new stuff, there was a new infusion mechanic, where holding a hotkey could power you up for a few seconds with a varying cooldown. The new class added, the Dark Artist, is a class focused around lifesteal and sustainability over damage and tankiness. Enchanting is also a new mechanic that allowed you to put buffs on your weapons and armor. Strict boss progression is a configuration option that locked progression rigidly and punished for going outside progression or trying skips. So, those are the main mechanics added, so let's talk about them, starting with temperature. Temperature varied based on the biome and time of day, with places like the jungle and underworld being hot, and the snow biome, space, and actually nighttime being cold. The meter built up as you stayed in this biome without doing anything about it, and gave debuffs if you didn't regulate your temperature as you stayed in the biome, or if it's cold you just place a campfire and you're good. The mechanic was kind of just there. It didn't feel all that impactful to gameplay or change what you did in the biomes. Half the time I just kind of forgot about it until the first debuff popped up when exploring. It is getting an overhaul in the next update, and I say that's fine. Make it more punishing or just more impactful to gameplay. It didn't detract from the experience of the mod, but it also didn't add anything to it either. It was just, again, it was just there. Anarchy Mode AI changes. Let's talk about that. Anarchy Mode is the intended difficulty of the mod, and it was definitely harder than the base difficulty, but man did the difficulty just swing wildly. Where I had no issue with the Anarchy Mode changes to bosses like Wall of Flesh, Moonlight, or Plantera, the changes made to bosses like the Twins, Duke Fishron, and Skeletron were just very challenging and punishing. I just kinda skipped Duke Fishron because I just couldn't beat him even with pre-Moonlord tier gear. All the changes made were good to change how you fight the boss, but some of them were a large degree more difficult than the others. The difficulty of the bosses in this mode changed wildly, and I do hope that 1.3 equalizes the difficulty of the bosses to have a smoother experience. Either make everything super difficult, or make everything super easy, or find a middle ground. As for what the AI changes actually did, I liked them all. They were good. It was interesting to see what the GOAT developer did to the bosses. At least, the noticeable ones. Because Moonlord really didn't look like it changed at all. Just a couple of debuffs. Anarchy Mode items. While in the last review I talked about the low power of the Expert Mode items, the Anarchy Mode items were pretty strong. Seems as though everything went to those instead of the Expert Mode. I was happy that a majority of them combined to form new equipment that combined the effects of all of them. That's something that the mod did really well. The new ores that were Anarchy exclusive were also very strong. Calaxite was an insane armor and weapon set. The added health bumps from the Hearts of Anarchy were also a nice benefit. I'm pretty happy with all the items that the mode has to offer. Although, why only one ore for Anarchy Mode? Should do more. That'd be cool. Just a suggestion though. This difficulty makes stuff like Calamity Mod's Revengeance Mode seem like nothing compared to just how much Anarchy Mode adds in terms of items. Keep it up with the next update, or expand even further. The Dark Artist class, let's talk about that. The new class added in this mod. This class is like a thrower and a mage and even melee combined into one. It is a mechanically unique class compared to other classes from other mods, and has some pretty neat weapons. There are some issues, however. Of the weapon types that were added, Morningstars, Tomes, Totems, and Thrown Weapons, there was a pretty sizable balance and consistency between them. Morningstars were borderline unusable for most of progression, the Tomes were the clear strongest ones, Totems were all pretty decent but there were too few, and Daggers were behind Tomes but not unusable like Morningstars. All of these are getting condensed into just 2 weapon types in the overhaul, which is both good and bad. Less options for players to use is never a good thing, however less balance inconsistencies will exist, good and bad. Morningstars were new to 1.2 update, and it's honestly okay to remove them due to how low their power was, and they were just melee weapons, but without critting. Tomes were the clear winner, and it really showed when I tried to fight the final set of bosses. Totems were more support, which is okay. However, the issue with totems is that during boss fight, it feels as though the Totem Soul Link and its upgrades were a must-run against bosses. Not for the damage, but for the buff that you get when inside the radius. They're good buffs, but it hurts to have to stay inside the radius when it's placed down. As for thrown weapons, they were great, but totems were still stronger. I did absolutely love that there was multiple options for weapons to use. One class, but 4 different weapons to use. Love that aspect. A+ on that. No, not A+, S+ tier. Need more. As for infusions, which were added in the 1.2 update, I really wasn't a fan of those. Terraria does place quite a lot of emphasis on movement and having to slow down while holding a hotkey while fighting enemies, bosses or not, felt awful for only a minor benefit that lasted very short time. The only big benefits was a massive health bump from one of the later game ones, but not worth holding a full hotkey for about like 3 to 4 seconds. I do like the idea of infusions, but similar to activated equipment and armor abilities, they should have been pressed to activate, not hold. The effects were good, but not worth taking several hits from enemies to activate. It does segue into actually the next issue. Dark Artist and his defense, as well as his life total reduction, are very brutal to play. The class is pitched as a class with low defense, mid-tier damage, but has the insane benefit of being able to lifesteal. The issues with the class start with the life-reducing armor set bonus that a majority of the armors have. It makes every hit feel a lot worse than it actually is. A hit dealing 120 damage to you feels a lot worse when your life is reduced by your armor. The aspect is getting changed with the overall update, and I say fine. As for the defense this class has, it is also very low, making the combination of low defense and reducing your health feel even worse. I don't like being forced to run warding on almost all my gear, but I unfortunately had to. Dark Artist will still have very low defense in the overhaul update, but it will be balanced out by the other class aspects, like for example in the beta, the armor raises your max life total. That is okay. As for the lifesteal, it was very strong in very limited applications. Due to the combination that I listed before, lifesteal wasn't as impactful as it should be. By the time you're using the lifesteal on weapons, you're already one shot from death. The amount healed back doesn't help too much, and armor set bonuses giving a measly 1 to 2% of extra healing doesn't help much either. This is an issue mostly that the thrown weapons face, as tomes have many more projectiles per attack, so you get more lifesteal per attack with tomes instead of daggers. So I've been hating on this class a bit too much. Where does it shine? This class shines in a few ways. Its revive system is very good. It helps to stabilize and gives you a second chance in fight. I like this, as I am bad. The other main great aspect was the chunky damage and crit stats that the class got. It was a powerhouse when it came to DPS and movement, with the weapons feeling really good as well. Even the Morningstars felt good to use. They didn't do much damage due to them having no range attacks until very later, but they still felt good to use. Overall, about Dark Artist, is it a strong class? Absolutely. It fits right alongside the other classes and have enough support throughout the game to make it a worthy choice. It's not Rogue from Calamity, you can actually use it all the way to the end. Just make sure to slap warding on everything now. Armor sets for Dark Artist. They all got buffed from 1.1 to 1.2 and I'm happy with it. They all felt much stronger than the 1.1 update. I never once turned to a vanilla armor set like I did in the last update. It felt good. The revives were a nice added touch as well, helping out with the issues I discussed previously. One change I would like to see, however, it's not necessary, it's just something I'd like to see, is for set bonuses to be a bit more unique and take more advantage of activated abilities, like Chaos Force and Voiding Armor had. Those were the only 2 with activated abilities, and they were also the last 2 in the mod. More like that would be nice. Overall, the armor is very, very good. Big fan of the armor buffs from the previous update. Now this mod is a mod of the little things. This mod added a lot of small but very welcome changes that helped out. Alternate recipes to crafting stations, new recipes for a bunch of gear that's hard to get, the abandoned chest underground that held starter gear, and just little tweaks and changes that smoothed the grind. My favorite part about the little things was actually the syringes. Making or buying healing potions is a hassle sometimes, so it was a welcome addition. Another very good part about it was the Eternal and Anarchy boss summons, cause boss summons sometimes suck to craft, so having non-consumable boss summons is always good. Hopefully both the syringes and these boss summons return in the next update. They're not in the beta right now, but hopefully they return. Strict boss progression and progression in general. I'm okay with strict boss progression mechanic. I normally go in order during runs, even off camera anyways, but I'm still one of those people to bomb shadow orbs within 3 seconds to get meteorite immediately. The configuration option locks that off, making the mod both harder and forcing players into experiencing what the mod has to offer. I'm okay with that. I want to experience the mod. For progression in general, there's really only one issue with it, and that's the Void up to Kyo Zeroth progression. It's a bit weird that you kill Void, Voidstone then spawns, but you have to kill a whole other 2 bosses, Underling and Frostron, to be able to actually mine it. It's a weird spot in progression, and it's getting fixed next update, but it's still worth addressing. Other than that, the progression works well. The new bosses aren't out of place or have too much health, looking at you, Hammer of Rage and Azana, and they don't feel like roadblocks or progression stops. We'll have to see which bosses return next update. Enchanting. Take a weapon or armor piece, slap a buff on it. Easy peasy. It's a fine system that's easy to learn and easy to do, but currently in the system there is too much RNG. Everyone hates the Goblin Tinkerer because it's RNG reliant, and the enchanting is not as bad, but it's still based on RNG. I have several clips of me just looking for Absorption 5 on my helmet where I just keep on going and going and going and going and going. Is it a fine system? Yeah, it's one of the few things in this update that I'm actually sad is getting a total overhaul, as it was a nice system, if the RNG was made smoother. Like locking out anything tier 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 at later steps of progression. I like this system. I'll be hyped to play around with the new one in the beta video on the beta next week. Now that I discussed a lot about the mechanics and stuff, let's talk about bosses. These will go rapid fire quick, but also talk a little bit about the vanilla bosses and their anarchy changes. Let's get into it. King Slime. It's King Slime. Jungle Slime Spooky. 4 out of 10. It is King Slime. There's not really much you can do with King Slime, unfortunately, though. Eye of Cthulhu. Its changes were great. Love the flamethrower. New Anarchy Low is also great. 9 out of 10 on this one. Nose of Cthulhu. 10 out of 10. No, I will not elaborate. Eater of Worlds. Spawn Eater souls occasionally. Nice fight. Glad Totems got nerfed against it. 6 out of 10. Pretty decent. Needs more. Brain of Cthulhu. This one was really hard, actually. The changes were good, but man, that debuff is brutal. 7 out of 10. Owie, 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 this hurts. Queen Bee. Spawns Hornets and Hornet Nests. Made the fight more fun. 7 out of 10. I actually like Queen Bee now. I still will not fight it underground, though. Frost Sail. Cool boss. Nice fight. It rages too easily. Attacks were not too hard, but a bit repetitive. 6 out of 10. It's very ice to meet it. Underling. Newest boss. Very unusual movement, but unique. Fireball walls were not fun. Good new addition to the mod. 7 out of 10. Skeletron. Insanely difficult to the point of frustration. Still fun though. 5 out of 10. I've got a bone pick with it. Corrupt Spirit. It's a boss. It's needed for the Knight's Edge tier weapons. 4 out of 10. Probably could use a rework. Crimson Stalker. Same as above. Both are pretty forgettable. 5 out of 10. It's just okay. The Wall of Flesh. It's the Wall of Flesh, but it chases you if you go too far. Not hard. 5 out of 10 is just the Wall of Flesh. There have been really no changes to it. Other Nose of Cthulhu. 10 out of 10. No, I will not elaborate again. Destroyer. Great changes and reworks. Some of the best in the mod, actually. 9 out of 10 made the fight actually fun. Prototype. Brain of Cthulhu, but mechanical. Very nice boss with this. Still an obnoxious debuff and a bit too much speed. 7 out of 10, it's fine. Swag drop was really strong. Skeletron Prime. Skeletron, but more bearable. Still fun. 7 out of 10, pretty solid. The Twins. Difficult but fun. Why is it necessary that the Eye of Cthulhu spawns? 9 out of 10, good at it, but still hard. Plantera. A lot of projectiles. Very terrifying speed boost at the end. Good changes to make it more fun. Probably the best changes in the mod to a boss. 10 out of 10 changes. Keep it up. Primordius. Still very fun. Banging soundtrack. A bit too easy, unfortunately, even in Anarchy mode. 8 out of 10 demoted, but I still love you, Primordius. You're my favorite. Golem. Wow, that laser scared the crap out of me. 6 out of 10 changes. Too dependent on large main rooms, unfortunately, as is normal with the Golem fight. Duke Fishron. Hate it. Too reliant on the wing crippling debuff to be an enjoyable fight. 2 out of 10. Glad I skipped it after too many attempts. Overseer. Small Q Zero. Fine fight. 6 out of 10. Make it harder. Lunatic Cultist. Love the changes. 10 out of 10 changes and tweaks. Get wrecked Gorg who had Cultipede spawn on him. Haha. Moonlord. What even changed? Some debuffs, I guess? 3 out of 10, no noticeable changes. Void. Very hard but very rewarding to learn the moveset and master the boss. 9.5 out of 10, hard but fun. Underling, again. Better and more fun fight. Still don't like the fireball walls. 8 out of 10. When is the third rematch coming? Frostron. Love the fight, very fast and fun. 8 out of 10, just add more movesets to it. Kyozereth. Very fun fight, deserves absolutely to be the final boss. Exhilarating, tense, and a blast to fight. 9.5 out of 10, would fight again. So, that's all the bosses, ranging from just mediocre to very good fights. Now, how do I rate this mod overall? Better than last time? Worse off? How was it? Overall, I give the Anarchist Mod 1.2 update a 9 out of 10, meeting the score from last time. It's a very enjoyable mod that adds a lot to the table, and will hopefully just get better as it gets updated more and more. Now, let's take a look at the next mod I'll be doing. Next up in queue, in about 2 weeks or so after the beta video, will be my first run on the channel of the Calamity mod, but with a special challenge tied to it. Stay tuned for that in about 2 to 3 weeks depending on scheduling. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Blade Burger out!